YouTube, what is going on? Back with another Wuthering Waevs video, and today I wanted to go over the tier list. So last time I made a tier list of my own. Some information has changed. I want to look at Prydwen's, and I want to look at what they're saying, their criteria compared to what I think would be the case, and then go over it. Sometimes I think Prydwen is a little hit or miss with Wuthering Waevs information, with the Wuthering Waevs info, so I'm interested to see what they have up here. But I do think it is important to go over the criterias. So about the tier list, if you want, you could pause this to really go over this full in detail. Pretty much what they're saying is that the main criteria is going to be of TOA. While holograms are important, TOA is where really the actual synergy from the kits shine, because in hologram fights, you could realistically just solo it, and they're harder, but they're also only one-time rewards, and TOA is going to consistently reset, and this is where you're going to put your teams to use every single reset, right? So that absolutely makes sense. And then obviously skill ceilings is pretty much saying like, hey, listen, they are taking into account simple basic mechanics such as swap canceling with Encore Zhongli or Calchero Yinlin, etc. So they're also saying that Rivenus, Rexel, and Sephiroth helped them out with these, so shout out to those three as well. And let's go over it. So one thing I think we should go over is their channel log. Their channel log says they were updated. Now, this I do want to read real quick because this is pretty important stuff. To give you a picture, I look at it as S0 is pretty much an S tier. S0.5 is like an S minus, and then so on and so forth, right? So this is pretty much saying all 4 stars are going to be up to sequence level 2. So when we look at 4 stars, we're taking into their constellations up to 2, not to sequence level 0. I assume the 5 stars are still at sequence level 0. Zhongli has been added. Jinhsi is a problem. We're gonna make a whole video on Jinhsi and something completely different at a different time, breaking this down a little bit further. But they said Jinhsi has proven to be far more powerful as we've learned more and more about her, and her compositions are how to make use of the unique kit to overwhelm and invalidate many of the bosses in the game. Jinhsi convincingly has some of not the highest damages teams at sequence 0, making her the top damage dealer for Tower of Adversity. On top of this, Jinhsi's airborne state has proven to be absolutely oppressive in the face of many endgame bosses, allowing her to attack with little need to dodge or suffer interruptions. For all of these reasons and more, we're adjusting the DPS column, resulting in many characters moving down half a tier compared to Jinhsi. So Gion off rip moves down from S to S minus, tier 0.5, which makes sense. Rover moves down with Encore to 0.5 to T1. We'll look into that a little bit more. We'll see that. Calchero moves down a lot. T.0.5 to T1.5, although I do agree with that. Calchero definitely is not what he used to be before. Donja, my love, unfortunately goes from A to A minus. Johnshin, I never understood why people put her that high. I think it was so stupid. I don't think it's that valuable. As players are reaching the point, they can confidently clear TOA to close to maximum stars. Johnshin's value is starting to drop. Her biggest strength lies in grouping enemies, and the majority of the hard fights her players are struggling with have limited or no enemies for her to group. Wow. It's almost like I said that and I got yelled at. Well, you're just not using it right. Ethan, you're not using Johnshin. No, you're not spinning right. Shut the f up. You're not spinning to win enough. Like, shut up, bro. Jesus Christ. Bro, like, come on, son. Like, I knew I wasn't bugging, bro. I knew I wasn't bugging. But anyways, whatever. So Johnshin goes down. All right, let's go over this. So, DPS hybrid support. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see everything at once. Okay, off rip, I'm not going to lie to you. I already see a few things I don't like. So, first, now, how they categorize characters in this game, in this tier list. So I actually want to address this first. DPS characters are focused, before I get into what I don't like about the tier list off rip, which involves Zhongli, DPS characters focus on being sole damage dealers. The rest of the team is built to synergize with them and make them stronger. Criteria that impacts ratings for DPS, character rotation, difficulty, and potential for mistakes. Character damage within the best possible team. Characters on-field flexibility and durability. Can they die in one hit is a silly thing, because when you're really dying in one hit, especially in Tower of Adversity, if your character is decently leveled, I really don't think anyone dies in one hit. So I don't know how I feel about that, but whatever. Character ability to deal damage with all types, single target, cleave, and AoE, but with a bias towards single target being valued more. That's fine. Hybrid characters directly support your damage dealer of choice, often with incredibly synergistic kits, specialized outro buffs like Deepen, multipliers, or beneficial effects. Almost always built to complete their rotation right before your DPS performs their damage combo. Character rotation difficulty for mistakes. Character performance within the best team. How many effective team characters are playable. Impact of kit on a team's performance. Units that carry a team rank higher. Characters on field flexibility and durability. Can they dodge? Can they die in one hit? Again, I think it's stupid. Characters affecting damage contribution after including their buffs on the team and total on-field required. Support is support, man. There's like 3.5 supports. There's either shielding or healing. That's whatever. With that being said, right off the bat, there's no reason why she is in the DPS section. Changli should not be in DPS. Changli is 175% a hybrid character, and I think it's silly that she's in DPS. So off rip, not even talking about the rankings, the categorization I think is wrong. Now, could she be a main DPS? Yes. Are her damage numbers better than, let's say, like Donjin or Calchero? 1000% sure, without a doubt, for sure. But I think it's a little silly to put her here because it belongs to main DPS role. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I think that you really should be putting her in hybrid, and if you put her in hybrid, maybe T0.5 is still pretty solid. I guess she does lean more towards like that swap canceling DPS than Yinlin. Yinlin is really more of a hybrid, but I think this is unfair. So just off the bat, really not the biggest fan, but in terms of the ranking, I do think she is very solid in where she is right here, 0.5. She's obviously not putting out Jinhsi damage numbers. We'll get to Jinhsi in a moment. Jinhsi is just absolutely broken, but she has tons of free-to-play teams. And, you know, again, you could run her as that main DPS or the quick swaps, or just straight up a sub DPS to Encore or something, or straight up a sub DPS to whoever else. You know what I mean? She's really made for quick swapping. She's really made with quick swapping because the thing is, the two characters that she synergizes with the best, Jinhsi and Encore, as well, need some sort of quick swapping stuff in there. So I don't know. I think it's a little silly to keep her here, but whatever. But let's start back from the top. I jumped the gun a little bit. So DPSs. S0 Jinhsi, T0 Jinhsi. Jinhsi will always and forever be T0. I just don't think we're going to get a better unit than Jinhsi at all. Her multipliers are stupid. The incandescence per multiplier, I've gone over that in a million videos, is actually ridiculous. So T0, and I will be very surprised if we see another character enter the T0 until like the 2.0 patches. I really don't think it's going to happen. And I really think the release of Jinhsi negatively affected the way we look at DPSs. Because the thing is, when Changli's ult is doing, like, let's say, 70,000 damage, right? Before, we would do a nuke with the rovers, like, oh my god, 65, 70, 80,000, crazy. And now that we do so much damage with Jinhsi, oh, well, that's not a lot. And so I think it skewed a lot of the player base. So, because of the fact that she is just that good. So, very solid ranking here. There's no criticism. That's perfect. Jian deserves to be T0.5. Again, the only reason why he is not in 0 is just due to the fact that his damage numbers just do not compete. But he is still fantastic. And really, the AoE on him is absolutely ridiculous. Also, we have to keep in mind that he is tied to Mortefi, who is just it's the starting 4-star. So I could 100% see them putting out a 5-star support for Jian that could potentially maybe bump him up here a little bit eventually down the road. But for a guy who came out in version 1.0, who tied with a standard 4-star, well, not a standard, but a 4-star character off rip as his best support, he's still putting out damage, and he's very easy to use, very simple. He's a parrying machine. If you can't parry with him, that's a problem. T0.5, S-, I think that's valid. I think that's good. Really solid placement here. Encore being here is, and pretty much the A rank is interesting. I do think that she can be annoying to use. I think that the swapping stuff is not for everyone, and if you really want to get the optimal damage out with your Encore, you do need to do the swapping mechanics. Now, obviously, it's not complicated, but I can see the fact that, like, a lot of casual players, if they have Encore, they're probably losing out on tons and tons of DPS when they're not really accustomed to actually learning how to do the forte management and whatnot. Also, the fact that she could really only parry in her ultimate form, I could definitely see this bringing her down to A. So I think A is solid. I think, again, like they said previously, we brought her down due to the fact that she does so much damage. And Jian, I know people were saying that Encore with Yinlin's weapon out DPS's Jian. I'm not too sure of that, but even if it does, I think the ease of use and the fact that it's really just a 4-star that is going to help you the most here. I think this is solid. So I think this is a good ranking for Encore. Not mad about this at all. Havoc Rover, again, I'm okay with. A tier is I don't know, man. I feel like the Havoc Rover has such good damage and he's so easy to build. I feel like the Havoc Rover just has such good damage and they're so easy to build. And you literally get there's an echo specifically made for them. I do think I can see them going into 0.5. You know, we also really don't have a main support for them yet as well. Like Donjon isn't necessarily counting as like a real sub DPS. Really, Donjon does classify in that DPS. You could go with the hybrid route, but you know, so I guess A for now is okay. Again, just because of how much damage Jinhsi puts out. But I think I do believe that at some point we have to be like, okay, just because Jinhsi is created like a new category of their own doesn't diminish the value of the Havoc Rover. I could genuinely understand putting Encore down. Havoc Rover, I don't know. It's not my hill to die on. I think it's okay, but this is still a solid team and it's still very free to play friendly. This with Sanhua and Baiji or Verena, you know, or if you get Donjon for that damage deepen. So it's okay. It's okay. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it at all. Calcharo, man. Daddy Kakarot, it's unfortunate. Seeing him in an A- is unfortunate. T1.5. He is still a good unit, but he is a high risk, and not as high reward. If you are interested in leaks, I have a video about the character that is going to replace him. I will leave that at the end of the video. But especially if the leaks about that character are true, it just doesn't make sense to play with him anymore at this point. It's kind of like, Andy, I don't want to play with you anymore. Just like drop him off. Yeah. I mean, also the fact that like they kind of canceled some of the synergy between like Yinlin and him kind of made his value go down a little bit. So it's unfortunate. He's not a bad character by any stretch of the imagination. But a lot of people don't enjoy him. Like a lot of people do not enjoy playing Calcharo, and I get it. And especially because his ult is kind of weird to use. Like trying to get the full 5 slashes out of the ult is honestly a pain in the ass, especially in endgame content, because how often is like that boss or those mobs going to stay still enough for you at the point to get it, especially in a single target scenario, right? So 100% see Calcharo going down to A or A-. I think that's okay. I think that's valid. Now, Donjon, from an unbiased perspective, because this is my favorite character in the game, I get it. There really is no reason for you to use Donjon when you could just use the Havoc Rover. Easier to use, you don't consume your own health, and there's wider team varieties with the Havoc Rover. And again, they have a built-in nuke, and their multipliers are very solid, so it's like, Donjon is still good. They're still a good unit, but A- is pretty solid. Like, I have no complaints here. If you're a super duper ultra tryhard and you get her to S6 now, that's a different story. When you get her to S6 and you like that type of damage or you like that type of gameplay style, she does do tons of damage, especially with Cheng-Li's weapon. I heard Cheng-Li's weapon's busted on her. We're going to try it. I digress. So this is fine. Tier 2 is interesting because Chixia, I really, really dislike Chixia, but again, taking my personal bias out of here, I find it funny that there has been no movement when Chixia is genuinely receiving a massive buff because of Cheng-Li. Like, the Chixia Cheng-Li dream team is actually really strong. Like, very, very, very strong. So I'm kind of surprised by that, because Chixia herself does pretty decent damage, especially if you build her properly. But if you are then going to include this fusion damage deepen that Cheng-Li is going to give from an outro skill, 20%, and then also the resonance aberration buff at 25%, I don't know why Cheng-Li is in that, you know, category. I don't know why Cheng-Li is that low. I really think we'd have to be fair and kind of raise her a little bit, no? So that is a little You know, outside of the Cheng-Li, I still think her usage rate is pretty low, and she is annoying to use. Like, her damage output it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not impressive to the point someone like Donjit, someone like Encore, someone like that. But with Changli, no, the damage goes up a lot. So I could see them moving this up to 1.5, I think, with future patches once people test it a little bit more. But yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised she's still at tier 2. Ling Yang, unfortunately, is dead in the water, man. It is what it is. He's not really a good unit at the moment. Eventually, if you want spoilers, I got someone who will eventually buff your Ling Yang. But yeah, Ling Yang is kind of just sitting there. It's rather unfortunate, but it's the truth. He really just has no true synergy with any team right now. Like the Sanhua Baiji team is cute, but he's really not benefiting from that a lot. So he's all right. He's there. He's just there. Hybrid. I think Changli should be in hybrid. I really believe Changli should be in hybrid. And if Changli's in hybrid, if they're not T0, I do think they should be T0.5. So again, just the basis off of this tier list, I think this is a little silly, but whatever, we'll skip over that. Yilin is low-key the best sub-DPS in the game. Not low-key, high-key the best sub-DPS in the game. T0 is 100% valid, and there is nothing but good things to say. Obviously, Yilin is going to synergize better with Electro characters because she gives that Electro buff with the outro skill, but still, the fact that she has so much 18 coordinated attacks or 17 coordinated attacks, one every second, is a lot. And so she definitely synergizes perfect with you because she helps build up the incandescence a lot. You could use her with Gion. You could use her pretty much in any team. any DPS on this list, Yinlin fits with, simply for the fact that her own personal damage is valid and the coordinated attacks are pretty strong and they're very easy to use. Her field time is minimal. So an actual W, nothing bad to say here. T0.5, Mortefi and Sanhua. Going to Mortefi first. Mortefi's still a goated support. Mortefi is still an amazing support. He is one of those characters where it takes little to no effort to get his Resonance Liberation up. And if you use him properly, you can get 3 skills off before you do your burst and then your outro skill. So his ease of use is very minimal. He doesn't need a lot of ER. He really doesn't. And his field time is very minimal as well. And again, he can work with a bunch of people. He can work with Changli. Gion's his best in slot. You could use him with Jinhsi. You could throw him with Havoc Rover for some more coordinated attacks if you didn't have Yinlin. You're not going to get the best synergy out of the outro skills, but the coordinated attacks in themselves have enough value for that they're giving you extra follow-up damage. So it's a massive W. Sanhua. The reason why Sanhua still is 0.5 is due to the fact that her Concerto energy regen is fucking nuts. And she is so simple to use. Attack 5 times, use your skill, do the little slider, pa-ching, the glacier blows up, and that is it. It's strictly just straight to the point, Concerto energy, in, out, and she does a decent amount of damage as well. So really nothing bad to say here. Just go to these two. I think will always, I'm not gonna say always, but these two have a very important spot in the meta at the moment. And I think it's going to take a long time before they actually release a 4-star that is going to stop or move these two down, even at S0. So, but obviously with more constellations is even better. So valid here. Yanu S2, man. People were sleeping on Yanu, brother. People were sleeping on this homie. This guy is goated. This guy is actually one of Jinhsi's best supports. Completely free to play, helps get the coordinated attacks, and is just a top tier unit. So being in tier 1 is good. I do not think Yanwu is on the level of Sanhua or Mort, especially at S2. However, eventually, just so you know, if you have Yanwu and you have Yanwu constant all over the place, once he gets to S5, you know, he is going to, is it S4 actually? S4, he's going to become a shielder. Yet when casting Resonance Liberation and Blazing Might, the on-field character will gain a shield equal to 200% of Yanu's defense for 10 seconds. So he has even more value, and not only the fact does he provide coordinated attacks, he has pretty much always uptime with his skill, but he is going to be a shielder as well. So realistically, Yanu is a very good unit, and they're easy to use because if you have bad gotcha luck like me, I have a million defense pieces. Like defense is my middle and a half name, you know, that's a fusion piece. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, T1 is valid. I don't think it's on the level of these two yet. I think as time goes on and we get more characters that might cater towards him, he could creep up a little bit. But I think tier 1 is completely fair, and I don't see a problem with that. No one in tier 1.5. Tier 2. I think it's a little disrespectful to have the Spectral Rover on the same tier as Alto. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think he fucking sucks. Going to Alto first, I think he fucking sucks. I think he has no use in the meta. Like, obviously, he gives that arrow damage deep into him, and like if you want to do a mono team here or whatever, like 1, 2, 3. But I just don't think it's valid. I think he's really mid, and he's not fun to use for me. Like, his animations are slick, but his ease of use is annoying. It's every time I've tried to use him, I've just gotten frustrated, and you can tell me it's a skill issue, and maybe it is, but I just got frustrated. I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm going back to someone else because he just doesn't have a purpose. He doesn't have a purpose in the meta yet. Like, him and Ling Yang are kind of tied for being 2 of the most useless characters in the game. I would really throw him down to tier 3. I think tier 2 is a little too generous. So yeah, Alto, I really don't. I'm not a big fan of. I think he's mid. I wouldn't recommend you building him unless you just want to build him because you like him and he's stylish, right? Havoc, excuse me. I said Havoc. Spectral Rover S6. Spectral Rover becomes a healer, and Spectral Rover is a good sub DPS. They generate a pretty decent amount of damage, and their healing is pretty decent as well. But the problem is that they're a jack of all trades but a master of none, and they are really not that great. I would not recommend building this unit at this point. I really just don't think they're worth it. Truthfully, I think tier 2 is good. I wouldn't put them anything higher than that because, again, nothing they do is exceptional. Their sub DPS damage is not exceptional. Their healing is not exceptional. They're kind of just there. So tier 2, I think, is a good spot, and I would honestly skip over touch in this one, realistically. We'll get into other options that you could use for your supports, which we're going to right now. Support. Verina T0, that will never change. Verina right now at the moment is goated with the sauce. Coordinated attacks, heals you. The healing happens pretty much... there's no like, I don't think there's any like misconceptions over kit. Charge attack or jump and attack, you know, get your heals back, you cast your ult, you attack with the person you want, you get your heals, like, and she's an attack scaling healer. She gives massive buff with her outro skill. She is the staple of every team in this game. Any team, including Jinhsi, has Verina in it as the best. So in the sense of Jinhsi, where she has just set the bar so high, it's pretty hard for anyone to touch it. So that is that's what that is. No one in T0.5 is pretty interesting. I would agree with that. I like Baiji, and we'll get to Johnshin in a moment. But they are not on the same level. They're not. They're just not. It is what it is. So I think tier 1 for Baiji, A tier for Baiji, is very solid. Baiji is a very good healer. She's really easy to use as well, and she has these coordinated attacks that, hey man, if you're pairing her with Jinhsi, that's a free-to-play team right there. Jinhsi, Yanwu, Baiji, very good. 2 A-rank supports that are completely free with the best DPS. I'm just saying, even at S0, she is great. Also, keep in mind, Baiji at S5, I believe it is. Let's see, is it S5 or S6? She low-key comes more valuable than Verina. S5. If a team member is knocked out when Baiji is alive on the team, immediately revive them and restore 100% of their max HP. This effect can be triggered once every 10 minutes. So obviously this tier list is only going to S2. But I want to point out to you that, again, if you have copies of cons of Baiji sitting around, like, well, I don't want to build her, I don't like her, she's valid. I can give you 2 reasons why you should build her. They're moving by themselves. It's actually kind of insane. But yeah, very flexible healer, very easy to use, same echo set, and really no downside. You know, sometimes it can be a little annoying, like picking up the feather and stuff. And, you know, you do need a quite decent amount of energy regen with her. But still, that's okay, because you need the same thing for Verina. So, like, it's not a problem. Her outro skill is nowhere on the level of Verina's outro skill, obviously. But again, if you're looking just from a strictly healer standpoint and fitting in team comps, that's a good replacement if you don't have Verina at the moment. You should always try to go for Verina, though. Johnshin, tier 1. I don't agree, man. I don't agree. I'm tired of this nonsense. I'm happy that they brought her down. I think it was silly to have her anywhere higher than tier 1. She should be 1.5. It gets to a point where, obviously, I've seen people pair Johnshin with Mortefi because, like, obviously you could do the charge and, like, you know, it counts as heavy attack, whatever, with a Fortieri circuit. You are going to get interrupted. If you're using this in a TOA, you're not using her in the last middle cycle of TOA. You know what I'm saying? That middle tree, you're not using her. And again, maybe the first 2 or 3 levels, and the other ones, you might get some pretty decent use out of her. But her grouping starts to fall off pretty hard. And just, she is not the best. She has that counter, and it's annoying to get her shield. So, a good unit, I have to build her. I'm going to build her because we only have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you got to build 1 of the 4 or 3 of the 4 for TOA. But I don't think she's T1. I think they're really glazing here, low-key. And I'm just looking at it from an objective standpoint of if I'm in Tower of Adversity and I'm about to go fight Scar, am I bringing Johnson to the team? And with Johnson, what is she doing other than possibly having a counter? Because if you're not going to have the time to get her Forte off at S0 to get your full shield, or you're probably just going to wind up dying. So I think it's silly to have her here. I think it's very silly. I think we need to stop. Having Yang Yang in support is kind of weird. That's kind of silly. I think this is another like kind of misclassification here. Tier 2's okay though. Tier 2's fine. She's definitely a sub. There's nothing in which like she's not doing any type of healing. All she's doing is funneling particles, and I don't think funneling particles should be considered as a support. Obviously she funnels that energy, but yeah, this is another, again, I look at this like that is not a support unit, but okay, sure, whatever. Tier 2, really not much to say. Her CC is much less than Johnson's, and you know, I'm not gonna lie to you, Rexland looks better as Yang Yang than Yang Yang, so whatever. So moving on to Tier 3, homegirl Tauchi. Tier 3 is too low. Tier 3 is objectively too low, especially when we got in one of the new best sub DPSs in the game, and the best DPS in the game. Tauchi is an absolute unit and a monster to run with both of them, even at S0. So I think we're not giving Tauchi her fair share here. I myself, you can go back to my other videos, you can go watch my streams. I hate the way she plays. It's annoying. The parry counter system is ridiculous. Her outro skill is simply broken. Until we get another character that replaces her outro skill, which is the resonant skill damage buff of 38%, and even if we get a 5-star, I don't think it's going to be 38%. She is a best in slot. She is a best in slot, especially if you are trying to maximize your gameplay. Now, I would not put her in tier 1, and I might not even put her in tier 1.5 due to the fact that her use is pretty rough and can be annoying. But I think tier 2 is a very solid point to go in. Maybe even squeezing to tier 1.5, but I wouldn't go past that. And even tier 1.5 is cutting it a little bit. But to pretend that Tauchi is a bad unit and is kind of silly. Because they are really good at getting that damage amplification popping off and really hitting big damage numbers, especially in single target damage areas. So I think putting her to tier 3 is a little disrespectful. And again, I don't like her. I mean, again, I can give you 2 reasons why I do like her, but I don't like her. You know what I'm saying? So overall, my thoughts are it's not a bad tier list. I think you should be moved over to hybrid. I think you should be moved over to hybrid. And I think you should be moved down for sure. And I think Chixia should be up 1. I think you should be up 1. And I think that Havoc Rover should still be in T0.5. I don't think the Havoc Rover is bad. I don't think like... I think a lot of players they have their vision skewed because of the Jinhsi damage numbers. But other than that, it's solid. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Shout out to the homies for contributing to this. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think when these new characters, now this is spoiler territories and leak territories. If you don't want to be here, don't worry. I love you. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. I love you. When these 2 new characters drop out from 1.2, I do believe people are going to put more respect on Cheng Li's name, because a lot of people are not running Tauchi due to the fact that, you know, her resonance skill is annoying to get like the Concierto energy. So the Paintbrush Homegirl is going to increase resonance skill damage. It's going to be perfect Cheng Li. It's going to be perfect for Jinhsi. And then obviously we are going to be getting a new Electro DPS. Now, I don't know where he's going to land. I have no idea. I didn't look at his multipliers. I didn't look at anything like that. That's obviously all up for debate. But he's definitely going to be higher than Calchera. I can 95% tell you that he's going to be better than Calchera and will synergize perfectly with Yinlin. And I think the new Paintbrush Girl is going to land in 0.5, or if not possibly 0, depending on how much her coordinated attacks do and how often they attack. Because she is going to be a massive buff to 2 of already low-key the top tier characters in the game. So, but other than that, I don't think it's going to really change up the meta or anything like that. Like, I don't think it's like a meta-defining or meta-changing patch. It's really just helping and assisting other characters. So, also, we need some new 4-stars. Sorry, sidebar. We need new 4-stars, though. With that being said, let me know. What do you think? Are you messing with this list? Are you not messing with the list? You know, Again, Prydwen's a very good website for like resources and stuff, but make your own decisions, play the game. Let me know what you think. Mwah. I'll see you in the next one.
It's calling my name. So come on, baby, let's stop thinking.